So good morning, happy Sunday. It was supposed to be a beautiful sunny day in Southern California,
but it turned out still
but it turned out still okay.
We're still on the golf course, so could be worse. But today we're going to be going through, this is kind of a continuation of part one. This is part two, the first portion of the master class. We covered the common faults and the injuries that may lead to in the setup posture, and now we're going to be going into some of those common faults during the golf swing. And Dr. Romina is going to be discussing what kind of injuries are most common with these faults in the golf swing, and we'll take a deeper dive into that.
Exactly. This way you would know not only how to improve your game, but most importantly, reduce the risk of injury to your body, or at least know what could be happening if you do not make the corrections. So play good, play safe, have fun, and increase the longevity of playing golf and having fun. So join us.
And we have our special guest.
Good morning, everybody. Reggie Grant from the New York Jets, CFL, all that kind of good stuff. You can find me at reginaldbrant.com. We're at Heroes Golf Course here in West Los Angeles on the Veterans campus here. So I'm ready to rock and roll and have a good time.
Awesome.
We're ready to have a good time. Okay.
Reggie.
Call!
First swing of the day.
So what did I do wrong?
All right. I'm going to have you here. You want to go first?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I guess the first couple of things we want to run through, like I said, just kind of going through, and Reggie's just going to be our model for the day, but we wanted to go through what the most common faults in the golf swing are. And if we're going to focus on the hips and up, so kind of the torso portion, one of the most common things that we see as a coach for golfers in the backswing to start off with is taking it to the top. We see a lot of players that may have this problem of flaring that right elbow out this way, and that's too much internal rotation here, and kind of what those problems lead to are in the downswing, where we want to be more externally rotated coming down, but if it's too internal going up, then it's kind of hard to get that range of motion back in front of you.
Well, on that note, what I want to show you, can we go back to that internal rotation? So there's an alignment between your AC joints. So if you take your clavicle and where you find the dip, that is the ball and socket joint of the shoulder joint, the scapula, with the humerus. Now what happens when you're internally rotated and your elbow is flared out, you already forward the humerus into the glenohumeral joint. So there's very minimal range of motion that allows to happen. Therefore, you'll have a short, right?
Right, absolutely.
So if you go through the motion real quick, if you notice, there's not much room for that. Now, a couple of other areas that you will find problems with that, if you already know you have rotated shoulder, what I call keyboard shoulders, and you definitely want to focus on, in your workouts, focus on aligning the shoulder joint with the earlobe, right? Mm-hmm. This would help you not to subconsciously extend your elbows out, internally rotate your humerus, but by keeping the posture aligned, what you will do is you will train the body to not subconsciously elevate the elbow, which also causes elbow issues, right?
Absolutely.
And it will totally change your grip motion. So you end up forcing the whole process rather than having the efficiency in motion, which increases your acceleration and reduces risk of injury and micro tears in the soft tissues, muscles, tendons, ligaments.
Right, because if we're putting ourselves kind of in a not as efficient position, we're going to make compensations throughout the swing, and those are compensations that can affect our, make us injury prone and kind of give us those health issues in the long run.
Yeah. Can we do one more thing, just because I want to be talking about upper body, right? Can we do one more in the core position with the elbow out?
Right.
Yeah. So I want to show you guys. Let's go through it. Let's go through the downswing contact, and then contact and follow through. So now you notice that there's going to be a compensation in the thoracic spine because the scapula is flared out at the beginning, and it does not allow the full rotation. So you end up forcing your hip forward, and it may cause an elevation of your contralateral hip. Thank you. Just thought we just throw that in
Yeah,
there.
absolutely.
I feel like Emerald. Bam.
Right. Love it.
Love it. All right.
All right, should we head out to the course and kind of
You want to do
talk a
that?
little bit more? Yeah.
You ready to follow us? Come, let's go have fun. I gotta get my phone. The whole purpose of this series is to just bring a little awareness to you. What are the things you need to look for in order to enjoy your game? You don't injure yourself. And the problem with that is when you compensate and you're not having a proper biomechanic, it leads into early fatigue. So you'll notice yourself being tired, and which causes another cause of injury, because muscle fatigue by forceful compensation.
Right. Absolutely.
What do you usually see most often?
Yeah, because once you start, because everything in the golf swing is kind of a reaction to the position prior, and I know we covered the setup, and we just want to set ourselves up to be able to make the best swing possible. If we're in good posture, and then we're in a more efficient position, either with our body or our arms, shoulders, then that makes making contact with the ball that much easier, that much more effective.
More higher efficiency in multiple levels, not only in the range of motion of your swing, but most importantly in the muscle performance, your power and your performance.
Come on, get up. Game of recovery.
Alrighty.
So a couple of things that you can do to kind of like hack your body while you're in between holds is that before you swing, you really want to kind of borrow this for a quick second. So you want to take your club out with your palms up. This palms up creates an external rotation of the shoulders. You could do a couple of stretches just to get yourself warmed up a little bit.
Right. Prime your body.
Super important to warm up before any. So I think Reggie didn't warm up.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. We just told him go swing.
It'll take a couple holes, but I think he'll get there.
We'll get there.
And if you guys have any questions along the way, we
Just
can
throw
take
it at
them.
us.
Exactly.
Yeah. We thought if we create something like this, it will be a double benefit for you.
Right.
There are solutions available, especially like if you can practice yoga to stretch your shoulders. There are active apparel that actually correct your posture. So if you go to BAX-U.golf.com or BAX-U.com, that's BAX-U, it simply backs you up. There are biotension bands that dial your shoulder back, which is super effective in putting your body in a proper alignment, no matter if you have a forward carriage, hyperkyphosis, or other factors. But the biotension bands reposition your body, increase your alignment for higher performance and more efficiency in your muscles. Let's check this out. What other situations do you usually see?
Yeah, so
following Reggie.
right. And I wanted to kind of get him involved and get his, see how the activewear has helped him, like when he's playing golf, and kind of typical maybe uncomfortable positions or injuries that he's dealt with in the past.
Right.
One other kind of motion-wise, a common fault that we see is in posture, and then we talked about that in the setup. But there's a lot of folks that kind of come up and out of posture, or can't maintain the posture in the backswing, and that leads to all sorts of issues, coming down and impact-wise. And one big thing is when they're set up here, they're in posture, and then when they take it back, whether it be, mobility issues or flexibility issues, they come up and out of posture, and so it's hard for them to get back into the ball in a proper position. So what kind of, I guess, if you were to see somebody with that has trouble maintaining that
rotation component?
Exactly, and keeping their posture in their backswing, are there any mobility or stability issues?
Yeah, totally. We're going to talk about that. Reggie, can I use you as our model?
Really.
You can't get more of a dynamic personality than Reggie. Like, amazing. Easy to
Add
work with.
value.
Add value.
What do you think?
So if I can have you turn around, forward,
This way?
forward towards the Robin.
Okay.
One of the things that happens is when you have poor posture, there's this hyperkyphosis does not allow the angles of the vertebrae in the thoracic spine to slide on top of each other the way they're supposed to. So one of the things that you definitely want to do is bring your shoulders back before you're set up, so you improve the curve in your lower back, improve the thoracic curve, and then bend forward and then go into position. So correct the body. Oh, we gotta go.
We're on course. We're live.
We're on the course.
We'll let them play too.
Yeah. So there's 2 points as we walk over there. One is you have to realign your shoulder. The second one is to improve the curve in your thoracic spine, because your scapula sit on your shoulder blades, sit on your spine and on your ribs. So when your spine is in a hunch position, because of the anterior shoulder, it instantly affects the rib position, middle of your thoracic spine. By correcting the shoulders and the curve in the transition between your mid back and your lower back. This transition of the 2 curves are going to make a huge difference in the rotation during downswing, contact, and follow through. You'll notice a huge difference over there. So come on, show me.
Getting better. Got my BAX-U complete outfit on underneath here.
Actually, while you're looking at that, so Reggie, can you share with us what you're wearing right now? And
I have the
how is it
complete
affected?
BAX-U uniform on. It is the shorts and the shirt. It is improve my posture and alignment, and of course I'm trying to become a better golfer, as we all are every day. So yeah, so I
And
have
he
the
plays
whole
every day. He plays every day.
I'm working out a couple of days a week, 3, 4, 5 days a week here at Heroes, as well as trying to play at least a round or 2 a week. So I'm getting to my groove. I like to be back to where I do it every day.
So how do you
Play golf, 19 holes.
How do you adjust? Which one is better for you? Adjusting the shoulder dial or adjusting the thoracic, the mid thoracic?
I have no clue. I'm not that smart. I'm just trying to figure it out as I go along.
Which one gives you the best feeling?
But it always feels good right now. You know, I can feel it helping me to have better posture and to be more upright and keep my back straight and all that kind of good stuff. So,
Do you have it on? Can we see?
of course.
You just like push your t-shirt around. Let's see. So it has there's upper body and there's lower body.
Booyah, baby!
There you go. All right. So the new version obviously is a black on black band, but what happens is we can. So do me a favor, give me a rounded shoulder slouch. So there's a 3 dial system. Depending on your body type, you can realign your body position. So I'm going to put this on 2nd level, right? Now I want to change his mid thoracic.
Good.
Now, why is that important? Everybody's got that, right?
Yeah, of course.
We just finished Thanksgiving.
In my
so
mind, that's still
I'm
23, can
I'm
run
still
fast
trying
and
to
jump
recover.
high.
So these 2 biotension band, and literally I want you to see what happens to his mid back. Ready? Adjust it in different levels, right there. They change that mid thoracic spine. This is what changes, right here. So if you find yourself slouching, especially for a prolonged period of sitting, And this curve, you have a flat lumbar, or you have a flat back, or you have a hyperkyphosis. These two biotension bands either readjust the shoulder or realign this curve. This allows the torso to rotate better, stabilizes the scapula, aligns the AC joint. So therefore, the supporting muscle groups, whether it's your levator scapula, your deltoids, your latissimus, your traps, your quadratus lumborum, those are all not overloaded, and they can function and they can express their optimal performance. All right, how are you doing?
Outstanding.
Good.
And of course, I don't know any of those terms, but it feels better.
Basically, you feel better. Right? It's simplifying it, right?
Yeah, and kind of what we were discussing with the setup, it puts your body in the neutral position so that you're able to you're not compensating either at setup or in the backswing, because if we have those rounded shoulders, we obviously know what problems they'll lead to with the back. If it's too, we have the S posture, or if the hips are tucked too far in, then that's going to lead to issues going the backswing, and obviously make you a little more injury prone as well. So.
How much of shoulder compensation would you say impacts your grip?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think that's something that we covered in the first part, but if we're having those rounded shoulders, then obviously that automatically is turning your hands in this way. So we typically want a neutral grip where the thumbs are fairly square and on top of the grip, but if we're getting rounded shoulders, then your left hand, your lead arm thumb is going to be turned in, and your trail arm thumb is going to be turned in as well. So that's going to obviously get those wrists hinging in different directions, where we want everything fairly neutral and hinging all in the same direction.
Yeah.
So that means you'll draw it or slice it without knowing what the heck you done.
Exactly. Absolutely.
And in a clinical term, you'll end up having golfer's elbow, tennis elbow, lateral, medial elbow problems. You end up having a lot of trigger points in your brachioradialis muscle, which affects your gripping motion. This muscle specifically affects this gripping motion, right? And you'll end up having a false carpal tunnel syndrome or a weak wrist, which then you try to force it with the rest of your body.
Exactly, right.
Any questions? How many people we got joining us? Nice. Well, it's good to see you. Thank you for joining us. We're gonna have this multiple times.
Yeah.
We're gonna end up having a masterclass.
Absolutely.
We follow you whenever you want. And throw us your questions. We're here to help. Enjoy the game. Have fun.
Right, we can all say it.
Okay.
Keep talking.
Yeah.
You're live.
Like you're so, don't be so quiet.
I was trying to see if we can go through a couple more of the faults.
I think faults are really great.
Yeah.
Do you want to do?
Should we go up near the green?
Yeah, let's go near the green and so we're going to talk about faults, that the swing fault, and then I'll talk about how it affects your hip and possible chances of sciatic problems that we can avoid, or knee injuries, especially medial knee injuries and ankle problems. Right?
No, this is my buddy's little bro.
Morning.
How y'all doing? Good morning.
Morning.
So, I'm supporting all my small
What a way to start your day.
Absolutely.
Look at this.
This is a really cool golf course. I've never been out here before, but
My pleasure.
So that's Brentwood right there. That's actually Wilshire. For those of you who are visiting us from out of state or other cities, that's the Wilshire. Where is
Interview Carlos while we're waiting for these guys.
Carlos?
Ready, straight ahead.
So that's Coach Carlos Rodriguez. He's an amazing coach, all about biomechanics, and he also has a whole set of BAX-U by himself. He does not take it off. But the compliment about that was that his students told him he doesn't limp anymore. That's mission accomplished. Check.
that's awesome.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
Where your students actually notice your improvement.
Right.
Where are we going? Okay.
Yeah, just, heads up there.
Let's see where I had you.
Caught in the crossfire here.
So next time we'll make it a little bit more. We're gonna have a series of these videos. So the throw in your questions. Let us know what area you want us to focus on. Do you want to talk about prevention? Do you want to talk about compensation? Like where does your body compensate? Do you want to talk about correction or the top 3 faults?
Okay.
Let us know.
Let's step back over the
Watch it, guys.
so we're not in the way.
Good morning.
How you doing? Long time.
How you doing? I hope you're hot.
Just keep our head on a swivel here until they're hitting.
I'm gonna have a hard hat next time.
Right, absolutely.
Our next video shoot. Do you want to tell them about a couple of faults?
Yeah, so I think would you mind if we walk down here just so we're adequate? Just want our crew to be safe. So yeah, today we wanted to kind of discuss obviously the benefits of being in proper posture, and it's great that we had Reggie here who actually has the activewear on. But like we were saying, wanted to see what the common faults in the motion of the golf swing and what kind of injuries that can arise from that over time. And we covered the flying right elbow and kind of what injuries are prone from this position due to the compensation throughout the golf swing, and then us not being able to maintain our posture on the way back. The second thing I wanted to cover that I see a lot with most golfers is a lot of lateral hip sway in the backswing, and that can be either from mobility or just poor technique, but that's kind of one that we see the most, is kind of not having a center turn but allowing their hips to sway outside of their stance, and then that causes an array of issues on the way down, contact issues.
There's in the lumbar, thoracolumbar region, like the curve between your mid back and your lower back, that thoracolumbar region, there's a coupled motion. So you don't have just one movement of rotation, and lumbar is one movement of flexion. And the coupled motion is always rotation, lateral flexion.
Okay.
So one of the reasons that could be that the person is compensating, biomechanically speaking, could be because the rotation factor is affected.
Right.
Right? There's not enough rotation, so the body compensates by laterally bending.
Exactly.
Towards
with
that.
Swing in the hips, because in the golf swing there's actually 3 motions that happen kind of in the upper body area. There's obviously you're bent over here, so in order to make a center turn, you actually go into extension a bit with the body, and then to maintain your posture and the center turn, there's your lead side or your left side is bending for the right-handed golfer, and then obviously that rotational piece with the upper body. Because if we strictly didn't extend a little bit at all or have our left side bending, our backswing would look like this. So to maintain kind of that centeredness, we have a little bit of extension and then that piece on our left side.
Yeah, and if you turn around so I can show it on the camera, facing that side, just go through the motion again. You see where the actual translation occurs. So this is your thoracolumbar. This is where the middle back meets the lower back. And that is the transition area. Typically in spine, the areas that get the most amount of compensation are either the cervical thoracic, which is the transition between the cervical curve and the thoracic curve, and also thoracolumbar, which is the thoracic spine and lumbar spine, and also again lumbar and sacral. So this is the transition that when there is restriction in your mid back because of poor posture, the compensation occurs there. So you end up having more or less lateral bending. So if you can't laterally bend your upper body, guess what happens? The pelvis shoots in order to make that for the body. Fascinating how the body works. It's beautiful.
So you automatically, if there's certain instabilities and mobility issues, it might not necessarily be the golfer's fault why they can't get into a certain position.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we see too, and why I think this synergy works quite well, because some golfers, either through prior injuries or just from the lack of stretching or flexibility, they're not able to get into these certain positions. And us as a coach, obviously without overdoing it, we want to make sure that their body is ready, put in the best position to make the most optimal move that they're able to, without making as many compensations.
Exactly. And since we're on the topic, let's talk about the lower body.
Yeah,
If you want to
absolutely.
go back into that improper, the shift of the pelvis. Because I do want to show you something that's really important. Okay? And go to the lateral,
Okay,
pelvis translation. Okay. So if you notice now, the entire body weight is moving to one side. So you end up overloading the inner knee on one side and then affecting the ankle on the other. So this zigzag motion is what the body goes through in order to compensate or be able to go through like this compensation process. That's not even part of the whole equation.
Right.
So these are the secondary insults to the body that you'll end up suffering from. Even though the primary issue is in the spine, the secondary starting to brew, which eventually will become its own primary issue. Solution for that would be, obviously, stretching is like the rule of thumb, right? Stretching, everybody can stretch, YouTube it, certain group of muscles, lower body, upper body. But other thing that you can do is there are, we put in these biotension bands inside the pants that I think I asked Reggie to show it to you. That you could literally reposition the pelvis by these tension bands, changing the pelvis and changing the hip position. So you stabilize the pelvis, therefore there's less overload on the supporting lower body.
Absolutely.
Hips, ankles, knees.
Right.
Yeah.
And purely from golf mechanics point of view, stability is I think the key word here, because once we've moved off too much here, there is from here, nothing is loaded. Our weight's kind of just shifted over without anywhere for it to go. And this could lead to a lot of issues, obviously, injury-wise in the knees and the ankles, but in the downswing as well. And I think the key thing here is how do we position ourselves to make as least amount of compensations as possible. And if we're swaying off the ball here, typically what you'll see a lot of folks do is just hang back on their right side. And not to call him out, but I think you asked what I saw in Reggie's swing, and he kind of has a tendency to maintain his weight on his back foot and not go through the shot. Or people overcompensate and just really drastically move their weight too far over the ball, and not be able to maintain kind of that centeredness that we're looking for in golf.
The compensation occurs as a result of either not going through the full range of motion or going through it so fast that you just want to get through the whole swing,
Right.
And then that's where the damages come from.
Exactly.
Now, one thing you do need to know is that your knee joint is a 3-joint mechanism. So you have your kneecap, then you have the contact between the femur and the tibia. When you're compensating, it affects the tracking motion of your kneecap. So that tracking motion will cause medial meniscal injury, popping in your knees, or achiness when you start flexing or coming up. You notice that you'll end up having like this deep, dull ache in your knee that eventually will become sharp pains or popping or clicking sounds that are weak.
Right, absolutely. And that's the thing where I think proper weight transfer that happens in the golf swing, because typically, we want to have a wide, stable base to start off with and load into our trail foot, right foot for a right-handed golfer, without kind of losing our balance or centeredness. And if we're doing that, then it's easier to transfer our weight properly and post up on this leg, whereas if we kind of have lost our balance here, then again, we're either just hanging on our back foot fully or making, too much of an effort to come in here. And I feel like there can be a lot of, golfers face a lot of knee issues.
Yeah,
and
a lot of
ankle
knee issues.
Right.
Based on the research that I did, like 53% are low back injuries, sciatic, hip problem. 23% wrist problem, elbow. Shoulder is 34%. Knee is around 40% injury. Now, one thing I wanted to ask you, when there is instability in the weight bearing or not having proper balance in your swing, what happens to the power of your swing?
Yeah, it decreases dramatically just because not only is it hard to make good contact, it'll slow down your golf swing in general because it's not being led with your big muscles in your body. Because if we're hanging back here, it's really hard for us to get our weight back over, which is key to using our body and leading with our legs. And then we use a lot of hands and arms to compensate for that previous mistake that we made. And there's a lot of, rotation in our wrists. And
So
a lot
overloading over here.
Exactly, with the trail arm. And that kind of comes into the shoulder aspect too. So if you perform all of these kind of faults in the backswing, then it can lead to a whole array of issues on the way down, which I think is pretty certain to say that it can lead to a lot of health and injury issues as well.
Right. So our goal is to help you reduce the damaging effect. So not only you can play better, but not just today, but over a long period of time, the side effects that could occur on that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stabilize your hip.
Okay.
So that way our viewers can see what it means when you have a stable hip in your overall performance, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So imagine two biotension bands holding the SI joint, right this whole area, activating your core. So go ahead and go through the swing. So if you notice that the whole entire torso is giving you the power that you need, and when it's needed in the lower pelvis area is where the thrust and the power comes from, right?
Absolutely.
Now, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to stabilize this hip. Because some of us may have not only lack of lumbar curve, you could correct that, but maybe you have this shifting of your pelvis for any reason, which there's an assessment you can take to check your own posture. It's pretty easy. You just look in the mirror. So I'm going to stabilize his hips, right? Because once you stabilize the hips, you reduce the loading on the knees, inside out, and also the ankles. Let me go ahead and stabilize your hip, go through the motion. There's no swaying side to side. The flexibility, flexion, extension, lateral bending, and rotation are most optimal positions. Reduces wear and tear on the acetabular joint, so you have less trigger points on your TFL, quadricep muscles, and hamstrings and glutes.
Right, and I think it's inevitable that we're going to always go back to having a proper address and setup and make our posture as neutral as possible, because kind of what I'm getting from there too, and this is what us at the lab we focus on for no matter what age or level you are as a golfer. We always want to make sure that we nail down the fundamentals of the setup. That includes your grip, your posture with your upper body, and your having a solid base here. Because if those are in positions where they're not neutral, or we have our hips too tucked underneath, or we're in S posture where the lower back there's a little slight curve here, it sounds like that can lead to a lot of mobility issues, so that they may not be necessarily trying to make an improper motion, but because the hips or the legs are in a kind of poor position, they're just not able to make the proper motion there in the golf swing.
Right. So for that reason, I'm going to ask Reggie. Reggie's wearing his shorts, the stabilization shorts, which stabilizes the lower pelvis. Going to go see him?
Absolutely.
Yeah. We're going to come to you, Reggie. It's interview time. I think this would be like, we're going to, after we finish this part, we wrap up our live.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Let's do it.
Yeah, awesome. So also on your putting is very important, like how you keep your pelvis stabilized, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, Reggie.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, talk to me.
I want to know, do you have the pants on?
Of course.
tell us about how it feels on your pelvis and your hips. When you hold the club.
So really, I'm not stripping.
We do want to show you how the pants help you, just like how the shirts help you. Okay, you can pull up your shirt. I can show you that. So the pants have this crisscross motion. You can go ahead and stand up straight. Thank you. And you go take it with me. Perfect, perfect, perfect. So again, there's these 3 dial system. You just wear this under your jerseys, right? You saw the shirt, right? I'm gonna put the shirt on the side so we can show a demo. So it stabilizes your sacrum. And you bring this over, there's 3 systems, and you just adjust and stabilize your
What's the sacrum?
SI. Sacrum. Oh, it's the 2 dimples in your back. So it stabilizes the 2 lumbosacral regions, the 2 dimples in your back. But the good thing about it is it puts the curve back into your lower back, right? And then this tension band helps with your hip position. So when you're ready to adjust it, you're going to go ahead and your legs shoulder width apart, slightly just put a little bounce in your knee, and then squeeze your abdominal, squeeze your glutes, so you put yourself absolutely in a neutral position and stabilize it right there.
Bam!
How you doing?
Outstanding.
Okay.
Ready to rock and roll.
As a user, could you tell our viewers how the pants feel?
Pants feel dynamic. It's better than any other pants I've worn that are, stretchy material, except it's much more elevated than most of that stretchy material I've used. Really compresses the body and actually, keeps a better alignment.
And how does that affect your overall swing?
Hopefully I'm getting better.
Oh, I have a good question to ask you. Do you notice any change in the efficiency and the fluidity of your swing when your back and shoulder and your body?
I'm not that smart, but I think it's making me better.
Does
Right?
it feel good?
Of course it feels fantastic.
The best opinion is your own opinion. Right?
Exactly. Oh no, it's something I wear every day, one day, and I'm out here 3 or 4 days a week working on my game, trying to get better. When I play, I'm actually wearing it, and my associates say that I'm getting better, being more competitive, and beat that part.
That's great news.
He's got the edge. He's got the edge. Watch out. Anything else you want to?
Yeah, no, I think we covered a good portion. This was a good continuation of what we had covered in our first part of our masterclass series, and we wanted to kind of go over what the importance of really priming the body, like we talked about, making sure it's in a stable, neutral position before we make any motion, just so that we're not making those compensations throughout the swing, and trying to protect ourselves and increase the longevity of our golf career.
Right. And having a healthier body.
Absolutely.
No matter your age, no matter your handicap level, no matter like what stage of the game, the sport you are.
Right. We want to be able to continually improve, but also be able to be in good shape to, give ourselves that time to improve as well.
That's right. Yeah. Thank you for joining us.
Awesome.
We'll come back to
Appreciate it,
you. Sure. We'll have these clips again, and join us for the masterclass. We'll let you know when.
Absolutely.